So Brian, firstly, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure, Walter, and thanks for your support.
No,
it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I guess the particular area that I was hoping to discuss with you today is around setting the standard and driving improvement throughout the organisation. I think it's obviously well known that there was a number of different changes in the CEO positions leading up to you. I think that in some conversations that you and I have had previously, there was some reluctance even from your part as to whether it's something you wanted to do or not do. But there's clearly been improvement, and whether it be coincidental or otherwise, I'm sure it wasn't just coincidental.
I hope not.
But clearly as a CEO of our organisation, and it's much smaller than the Carlton Football Club, I'd like to think that leadership plays a part in all of that. So would you mind, well, could you tell me a little bit about, you know, the sort of things that you identified that needed to be improved and what's occurred since then?
Yeah, from my point of view, I didn't want to simply come into the club and, make wholesale changes quickly. And so the first probably 6 to 9 months was spent in just trying to identify the current situation. At the same time, trying to identify, where we wanted to be in 5 years' time. So it was a combination of those two things. And it was, I came into Carlton during COVID when, upstairs stayed upstairs and downstairs stayed downstairs, and there was no integration. So I wanted to use an inclusive method to identify where we should be in 5 years' time, but it was hard getting people together. So that in itself was a challenge. But long story short, we managed to involve people about the future. We had about 6 workshops. We had member forums. And we revisited our business plan in a big way. So that was pretty important. I have a philosophy that it's best to get the best out of your people first and see what they can achieve in a good environment before you do make changes. And so we've made very few changes.
Yeah.
And so the changes occurred through changing the environment more than anything. Maybe changing a few of the goals and leading people to those destinations. So in long story short, we have a new business plan. It took about 12 months. We used an inclusive process to develop that. We think it's owned by everyone. We believe it's owned by everyone. And it sorted out the problem that I had when I first came here, when there was really no plan. The values were really dissipating. They were quite. They weren't really values, they were more like strategies. And so, we've come a long way, I think, in the 2 years. We're 2 years into a 6-year plan, and the development is staged, and we've met just about every target so far in the first 2 years.
Wonderful. I think, I guess from our business perspective, we set a budget at the beginning of the year, and that kind of becomes our benchmark, and at the end of the year we look back and we go, we were successful or unsuccessful. From a business point of view, that is, well, I think it's very, very different, Brian. So how do you determine a successful year?
I think it comes down to achieving, staying true to your purpose, staying true to your values, and achieving your KPIs, and also adding to your vision. So there's a lot of things in there, but when we go to the board, I go to the board every month with an upgraded set of KPIs. Where we are compared to our 8 KPIs. So it's not just on field. It's around number of members. It's around the profit from members. It's our EBITDA, which is over 7 million this year, which is pretty good.
Fantastic.
It's about the satisfaction rate of our players and our employees. We try to get an 85 plus. It's about our infrastructure development and what's happening there with the gardener stand, with the new grass. So I have 7 lots of KPIs in 7 general areas with 7 general managers, and they all report each month to the board. So it means that my board is in complete alignment with what we're doing day to day at management level.
Okay. So if you won no games but you were highly successful off field, would that be deemed to be a successful year? Or
no.
No. So the games are critical.
Games are critical. For us to have a successful year, I would say we'd need to achieve 80% of our primary KPIs. Okay, and some of those are, for instance, top four, finishing in the top four of both AFL and AFLW, and winning a premiership. First name, finish top four.
Okay.
So that's one of the areas. We have 7. So I'd want to get to about 80% of achieving each of those KPIs before I could say, look, we've had a successful year. If you said to me, look, we achieved everything but on-field performance and we finished like 7th or 6th, is that a successful year? I'd probably say yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously the on-field performance also helps drive the financial performance as well.
Absolutely. Some of us CEOs have goals of filling the stands irrespective of the result. And in some European sports and competitions that can happen, with the Celtics of the world, the Manchester Uniteds, but I'm not sure we're at that stage at AFL.
No, that's fair enough too. You've spoken about values, and values is something that's very, very important on time. And I know it's very, very important to you because you and I have discussed that privately. You've been at West Coast when I think it was just one team in all of Western Australia at that point in time, was it?
Then 2 teams at the end of my tenure.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then you went to Geelong, that's basically got its own little town.
Yeah, regional town.
And now you've come to Carlton. Yeah. Could you take me through the differences in values and cultures in all those 3 organisations?
I could, it'll take a day. It'll take an hour.
Is it that far apart?
Oh, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, the West Coast Eagles were originated at a time when the stock market was booming. West Australia was booming. Mining was getting off the ground, and so there was a fair bit of fanfare and money around the commencement of the West Coast Eagles, and so its birthplace was around being very corporate, being very commercial. And attracting those types of people, okay, and so its culture was very commercial. It was very profit driven.
Okay.
At first it was a public company. It was the IPL Limited, and it went on the share market. And it was 50 cents a share. So that's how they were thinking, not non-profit but for profit. So they had a very commercial culture. Geelong had quite a regional culture. They were professional but casual, and I call them, the sort of, someone said, what's the culture? It's casual professionalism down there. So things are pretty easy. Their supporters aren't as passionate, I don't believe. It's from an audible sense point of view, they're not as audible. Internally, they're probably quite as passionate as most, but they're quite a quiet sort of group. And their culture was based on good regional values. And at Carlton, it's interesting because its values are in its DNA. They're very audible. They're very passionate people. They're quite European people in terms of origin.
They speak with their hands, Brian.
They speak with their hands. And so, I say, our culture here is our DNA here is historically, when you win, it's party time. When you lose, it's funeral time. That's what it feels like. And trying to find the balance there has been my challenge. On one hand, enjoying the passion of the people, but trying to make sure it's within a reasonable behaviour. Is that the right way of putting it? It's got good resources. It's got good talent. And when I came here also, there was a culture that they wanted to be successful. They'd been unsuccessful for so long. There was beginning to be this sort of intolerance for poor performance. They just wanted success. And so I found internally that people wanted success but hadn't actually seen it, hadn't actually experienced it. Yeah. And it was hard for them to work out how to become successful. So it's really important that the leaders, the Michael Vosses of the world, the Luke Sayers, natural leaders helped with that evolution. And it has helped. We've developed good plans, we've achieved them. People see what success is like. We're winning games. I think before I arrived, we won 20 games in 5 years,
Yeah.
And we've managed to well and truly beat that. And so we're starting to see, how to behave to become successful, which is really important.
Yeah.
People have to see it.
Yeah, one of the things we spoke with Tara about, Brian, this morning was when she and I first met and had a conversation was many, many years ago, and one of the things she said, and at that point in time, Bolts was the coach. And they had opportunity to win, but always fell short. And one of the things that she spoke about was that they'd forgotten how to win.
Yeah, right.
So, and that really stuck with me, and that sort of thing we discussed this morning, because I think it is a learnt behaviour to a degree, isn't it? It's almost, if it's learnt, it's expected, and if it's expected, it kind of happens, yeah.
Well, Vossi's been part of a premiership on several occasions as a player and as assistant coach. And then, I've had 5 premierships in my time. So I think that helps.
Of course it does.
You know what has to happen. You can see it, you can feel it. It's interesting because as a CEO, I look at things and see. I see the team going through various stages.
Yep.
And I have a fair understanding of how far off or how close we are to real success, not just week by week.
That's really interesting because, and once again, a conversation I had with Vossi earlier today was about data and how data is playing such a big part in everybody's lives these days. And it plays a big part in the Ontime life because we measure everything to do with the drivers, how efficient they are, how many drops per hour, the cost per hour, the KPIs for our clients, we measure everything. And yet I get a sense that what you just spoke about was an instinct and a feeling, and that was what I spoke to Vossi about. And I've gone, so you've got all this data, and then you've got, what made you a great player and a great leader was this instinct and this feeling, So which overrides which? So I'm going to ask you exactly the same question.
No, and one doesn't override the other. You've got to have both. It's not one or the other. It's like most things in life. It's not or, it's and. You've got to have and.
Yeah,
and it's data and it's feel. It's both. I couldn't do it just on feel. And I don't think Vossi could either, but it's pretty important. I mean, it's like, in my role, someone saying to me out of the blue, how's the finances going? If I can't answer that without going back to the books, I'm in the wrong. I'm not, I don't know my job well enough. You need to have a feel for how the business is going. You've got to have a feel what the cash balance is at the bank.
Yeah.
You've got to have a feel of your debt situation, of where some dollars are going to come in. You've got to have a feel of where the small movements in your budget next year will give you good dollars.
And that's fair enough.
So yeah. But you need data as well.
Yeah.
If you do it without data, you're pretty good.
You've been in the business for quite some time. So I've been with Ontime for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
So Brian, you must have seen enormous change and you must have gone through enormous pressure over that period of time. What do you feel has been the biggest change that's occurred?
Probably just the added layers and complexity to our business. That's what's hit me, and the requirement of leaders to be multi-layered in their skills and experiences. We've gone from, when I first started, just worrying about our on-field performance as a football team. Then it's gone on to on and off-field performance. That's another layer around infrastructure and P&Ls and engagement levels of your staff, all of those types of things. So it's gone from that to on-field to off-field. Then it's gone into doing well in the community. Because we didn't have the community programs, and now there's community programs everywhere. Carlton Respects programs. There's the Alzheimer's. There's all sorts of programs out there. So it's doing well in the community. So it's gone from doing well on field and off field to doing well in the community. And this fourth layer now around doing right from an integrity point of view. I mean, the AFL have got 40 staff in integrity now.
Yes.
About salary cap, TPP, drugs, alcohol, vilification. And so as a CEO, I am probably expected to have some sort of general skills in all of those areas now. So that's been the challenge, okay? Does that make sense?
100%. Because I can tell you from an on-time perspective in the time that I've been there, and part of it is generated through growth, as it has been for you.
Yeah.
I think when we first got involved with Carlton, you were probably turning over almost half of what you're turning over now. And our business has grown also, but I mean, risk mitigation is such an enormous part of the on-time business, and it's not just about risk mitigation for the business itself, it's risk mitigation for our clients, because that's part of what our offering is. You know, we take the risk away from you. And I imagine it's, you know, now you've got all the head knock issues, and there's been great emphasis on player welfare and all that. It must be the same for you, surely.
It is, no, exactly, yeah. I mean, we struggle with, you know, what is our risk appetite for all these things too, you know. As leaders, what level of risk are we willing to take on concussion, on drugs, on our total player payments, you know. So we're doing that all the time as well.
Yeah, no, it's certainly become, we've also seen a change post-COVID. I mean, I think there's no doubt that COVID, in our business, it's changed attitudes of people. It's changed a whole heap of things out in society. Have you felt that? Yeah.
It's one of those experiences where you don't want to do it again.
Oh, no. I didn't think we'd do it the first time. Nobody ever imagined it.
Someone said to me, you know, look, we're going to go through another COVID in 5 years' time. I would make sure I've retired. You know, it was a time where you had to pick, you know, the best solution out of a whole bunch of terrible solutions. You know, options, and you know, you're always making a decision on the basis that, well, you know, it's a bad decision, but it's a bad option, but it's the best one, you know, which I find intriguing. You know, that you actually pick a bad option, knowing it's a bad option because it's the best option there.
Yes, it's the best.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We all lived it.
Oh, I hated it.
No, we certainly all lived it. Ongoing improvement. I mean, we're a quality assured company. We're all about ongoing improvement, and with ongoing improvement, what we find is that we create change. And some people in our organisation adapt better than others to change, Brian. What do you do in relation to ongoing improvement and forcing change throughout the organisation? How rapidly do you do it? Are you conscious of it?
I'm not great at growth. I employ good people who do that. And in this area of innovation, I can't say I'm brilliant at it either. So I've appointed a general manager in innovation and growth strategy, who basically works with each of the GMs in trying to identify innovation in their particular roles. And it's been good, and you know, it's been good for a lot of reasons. But I think it's an area I think there are so many people so much better than I am that I leave that to other people. I've had a reputation for being a fix-it person, and so I tend to do that a lot. And in initial growth strategies I find okay, but those more, you know, in 10 years time strategies, I find those really difficult.
Okay. All right. Well, that speaks about self-awareness too, doesn't it? One last final question, because I'm conscious of your time.
Yeah, that's right.
You've spoken about how important your people are, and getting the importance of getting good people, and that's where both our philosophies are aligned very, very much. How do you ensure that you get good people, or you get the best people and you keep them?
If I can give one bit of advice that I think is crucial, it's the ability to hire well in the first place. You do that, you save so many problems down the track. So for me, it's a motto of hire well, manage little.
Yep.
All right? And so we do a lot of research, interviewing, referencing candidates for our positions. We even have a value-based alignment tool which tries to align the personal values of our potential employees with our club values. And they don't get to an interview stage unless there is good alignment. On top of that, we look for good talent, good experience, good outcomes in their previous positions, good referencing, all those sorts of things. But we're quite big on ensuring we get the right people here at Carlton.
First time round.
First time round.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Walter. Thank you.
Thanks very
for your
much,
time.
Brian. Thank you.